TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey gang, welcome in. My name is Scott Webb. This is In the Batter's Box, and we're getting down to the end, right? This is the World Series show. So boy, what a long season, and that's just the way baseball works. And we probably should do a little bit of a recap just to get some things going before we get 100% into the World Series. So it's been a little while since I've been on the broadcasts here. So got my roof fixed since the hurricane, and that was not really a big deal, other than we had probably 30 shingles and stuff blew off. Helped the neighbors with their stuff and their problems, and finally got everything sort of rectified with the storms. And I was out of power for 3 or 4 days. So I was very glad that power came back. So starting to get back to a little bit of normalcy around here a little bit. And I've been looking at the World Series and stuff pretty heavy. And we'll get into that in just a second. I think the best way to start this show is to sit there and say, well, what led up to this World Series and where are we at and what's going on and so forth, because it was an interesting thing, right? So you had the Phillies, you had the Brewers, and you had the Dodgers. They all won their divisions. In the National League, you had the Mets got in, the Padres, were in. And, it was interesting that the World Series last year was the Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Neither one of those teams made the playoffs this year. So one of the things I always look at and really root for is for the ability for someone to say, we really did get the best teams in the World Series. And the way baseball works with 162 games, they're going to eliminate teams that don't deserve to be in a playoff, so to speak. And then the way the playoffs kind of structure works is you certainly don't always get the best teams in the league, and that's okay too. But, when you had Texas make it last year and Arizona make it last year, I think you didn't get the best ratings that Major League Baseball could have got. Not that you didn't have a little bit of star power there, but nothing. I'm just going to tell you right now, nothing like what you got this year. You've got, Yankees, Dodgers. And the Yankees won the most games in the American League, and the Dodgers won the most games in the National League. So theoretically, you got the two best teams. So the Yankees win the American League East, Cleveland Guardians win the Central, and the Houston Astros win the West. You get Kansas City and Cleveland and Baltimore all make the playoffs. So not really too much of a surprise. The Braves made it in. So when you're looking at the teams and kind of how it all came out, I guess one of the things I was surprised about was, the Mets got hot at the right time. The Mets drove all the way up to the National League Championship Series. They go in, they have to beat the Brewers and they have to beat the Phillies. And they did. So kudos to the Mets. The Mets were theoretically the last team in. They were the 6th seed. So as things turned out for them, they played a little over their heads, did pretty good. But I think, and I'm going to say this in a second, a little more in detail, but, the Mets got to face the Phillies, who they see all the time, but they also got to face the Brewers. And these are teams that don't have, not so much the Phillies, but the Brewers. They don't have a good starting pitching scenario, and the rest of the league really doesn't have this real dominant starting pitching that gets you to World Series performances usually. So we'll explain that in a minute. But so the Mets get there, and the Dodgers. They end up having, the Braves and the Padres play off. The Padres beat the Braves, which is not, the Braves. The Braves made it in, but the Braves aren't the real Braves. I mean, they're so injured and banged up, and again, they didn't have any pitchers either. Chris Sale couldn't pitch, and it's just a whole different dynamic, for them. So the Padres move along. The Dodgers get the Padres. Great series, great games. Dodgers beat the Padres 3-2, and then they have to play the Mets, and Dodgers really showed out, I think, in that series a little more, and rightfully so. I mean, the Mets, 6th seed coming in, having to play the 1st seed, it should be like that. It was, 4-2. When you look at the scores in those matchups, I know that the Mets beat them up one time when Flaherty got bombed, but the Dodgers did most of the beating up. And then in the American League, the biggest surprise to me was the Tigers. And they came in as the 5th seed, but they were the 6th seed. I'm sorry, they were the biggest surprise to me because they beat the Astros. And of all things that I thought was going to happen on the American League side, I really thought that the Astros had the ability to not only beat the Tigers, but beat the Guardians and then take on the Yankees. And you know how that's going to work out, where that's going to be a slugfest between those two teams, and possibly the Astros can beat the Yankees. So I thought, look, Astros were probably a pretty good bet. Didn't work out that way, did it? Because damn Detroit beat them. So Detroit moves on, and then they play Cleveland. Well, those two teams have played each other a lot this year, and they played each other a lot in, over the seasons because they're in the same division. Detroit's always given Cleveland some trouble, but Cleveland's always been better. And this year went 5. Cleveland won 3-2. But it starts to show some things, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. And then you have, on the other side of that bracket, you had the Royals and the Orioles. Well, the Orioles are an interesting team because ideally they were better than the Astros, and they were better than the Royals and the Tigers, and they were better than the Guardians. But the Royals beat them 2-0. And I think that goes as a big testament to where pitching is in Major League Baseball. The Royals' offense is not any good. And the way the Royals won was through starting pitching. And that carried over against the Orioles, and the Orioles just didn't have the starting pitching to match. So then the Royals get the Yankees, and the Yankees, just too much offense. 3-1, knocked out the Royals. So saw that coming. And then, the Yankees get the Guardians 4-1. Yankees move along. So I don't really think there's been some great games, some exciting games. Those big home runs that were hit from the Guardians, big home runs hit by the Yankees in that series. Big Christmas, Stanton, Soto. Those were big shots. Those are those are exciting things, not only for fans but gamblers and everything. The whole thing's just something else. So now you really get the cream of the crop in this World Series. I'm excited as hell for it, to be honest. I think you can sit here and you can go ratings through the roof. This will be a huge series. Every single thing is going to be analyzed. Everything's going to be put out on the table in this series, and you've got the best team in the National League and you got the best team in the American League playing, and it's not even about that as much as it's really about you got stars amongst stars amongst stars that are playing in this World Series. These are the best players in baseball that are going to be on the field. I did an article, and it's you can go. It's the free. I posted it for free. It's in my website. But what was interesting is if you really look at this and you sort of break these things down and kind of, I shouldn't even say break them down. Aaron Judge was number 1 WAR player in baseball. He's going to be the American League MVP. 11.2 WAR. His offensive WAR was 95. He had 58 home runs, 144 RBIs. He is most certainly going to be the American League MVP. There's no shadow of a doubt. On the other side, the number 2 player in baseball was Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani, 9.1 WAR. Offensive WAR was 80.7. I'm sorry, he was the 3rd player. And that's not really even fair because the truth of the matter is Bobby Witt was ranked up there in just overall WAR in the top 5 and actually beat those guys. And I don't want to take anything away from good players. And I'm not taking anything away by Witt. But he's getting a lot of run for defense. And that's okay. WAR has 2 sides of it. It's got offensive side, defensive side. And by far, he is the lowest in the top, say 6-7 guys on offensive WAR, and he is the best on defensive WAR. He's a great defender, saves lots of runs. And over a 162 season, that means a lot. In a short series, I don't know if it means a whole lot, and obviously they're gone, so it must not mean too much. You got to have offense and you got to score runs. I get it, you got to defend, but if you can hit a 3-run home run as opposed to you got a guy on first base and it's going to be a single through the shortstop third base hole, you dive over and stop it. Now you got guys on first and second. Okay, great, that's a great defensive play. You're going to get WAR points for that, but you're not really helping you're helping your team, but you're not really. It's not a 3-run homer either. So point being is that you have in the top 4 players of all of baseball, you have Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Bobby Witt, and then Juan Soto. 3 of those 4 guys of the best players in baseball are going to be playing in this series. And then if you really drop it down a little farther, Mookie Betts ranks 22nd and Freddie Freeman 29th. You've got Chaz Chisholm, which I couldn't believe he was this high, but he's 33rd. Teoscar Hernandez is 49th, and Anthony Volpe is 50th. So in the top 50 players of all of baseball, MLB, there's 8 players going to be playing. And you just don't see that. There's a reason why these teams are good, and obviously you're seeing those things. But I always say this, and people sometimes get this misconstrued to a little bit. Some of these guys get paid a lot of money. Some of them don't get paid as much. Like Bobby Witt's not getting paid as much as Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani, right? Or Juan Soto. But there's a reason for that. And the biggest reason for that is when you're a star amongst stars and you're counted on to carry your team in big moments and in big games, you got to come through. And I'm not saying Bobby Witt is a bad player, but Bobby Witt is not of the stature of those players. He's just not. Now, over the course of time, he might. But if you've got two guys, let's just say it this way. You have two guys in Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge, 50-plus home runs. Aaron Judge, 144 RBIs. It's been a little while since somebody's got 140 RBIs plus. And then when you think about it, Shohei Ohtani had 120 or something like that, 130 RBIs. Soto had 40 home runs. So, it's one of these things where these guys are the best. And when they're on the biggest stage, guess what? That spotlight's on them. And you pay them to handle that, and these are the guys that can. They can handle the spotlight. Not only can they handle the spotlight, they excel. So keeping that in mind as you're betting and making, predictions and looking at propositions and prop bets and things upon that nature. I know it's a very common thing to want to bet on long shots and small guys to be, MVPs of series. I'm just going to tell you flat out. In this series, I don't think it's going to be that way. Matt T says, "Hey, Scott, glad to see you're doing well. Should be a great World Series. Hope it goes to Game 7. Matt, you know what? I'm going to get into a little discussion here about these teams in a second. I'm just sort of looking at, how I'm excited about the idea of who's playing in the games. I think it's important to know who the statures of these players are. And the stars among stars, right? I mean, these are the best players in the game, but they are so tightly matched that I would be shocked if it didn't go 6 or 7. I mean, there's no way, and we'll get into it in a second, but I think it will be a 7-game series. I think it could be a 7-game series. I think it's certainly going to go 6. And then I have some thoughts around, what do you do when you have two teams that are so closely matched? So let's look at this for a second, right? So if I pull this, go back, and I'm just kind of going through my article because I got some notes in there. What's interesting is a lot of times you can look at this and you can go, all right, well, the Dodgers won, 96 games. They won 98 games. The Yankees won 94 games. Well, that 4-game spread is not really enough to be enough to move numbers in a betting line too much. It's going to move it some, but not a lot. Meaning that, less than 10 cents. That's less than 10 cents. It might be 6 cents, something like that. Might even be 5 cents. So when you start to then look at it and go, all right, well, a lot of this stuff comes down to how do you power rank teams? I get that sometimes, teams win games and they do stuff. And like, there's one big anomaly for this season, and that big anomaly was the Cleveland Guardians. The Guardians were a huge anomaly. And I say that because I talk about base runs a lot and base runs standings. Base runs are all about sequencing of events. So you got Team A on one side, Team B on the other side. Team A and Team B are going to have the exact same sequence of events, same 7 things. And that's just the easiest way to explain it. So Team A comes out and they get 3 walks. And then they hit a home run. and then they have 3 strikeouts. Well, they just scored 4 runs. Well, Team B comes up and they hit a home run. Then they get 3 walks, and then they get 4 strikeouts. I'm sorry, 3 strikeouts. They have the exact same 7 things happened. Team B scored 1 run. Team A scored 4. Same exact stuff happened. So one of those teams is going to be sort of a bad luck loser, right? So you get that, and base runs goes and equalizes those things. All of those sequencing of events that happens throughout a season. So the Cleveland Guardians were the most favorable team in base runs of any team. So they won 11 more games this season than they should have won, because I called it death by paper cut. They just were in spots, came through, did whatever, scored runs, all this stuff that normal teams don't do. So through sequencing of events, they won 11 more games than normal teams in their situations. So I always power ranked them lower and bet against them a lot. I like them in certain spots, but I bet against them a lot. So when you sort of look at that, we have a little more division here, because I'm going to talk about base runs and I'm going to talk about run differential. So run differential creates a standings basis called Pythagorean theory. So Pythagorean theory is based on I score this many runs, I give up this many runs, this is my run differential. This is how many over the course of a season, this is how many games I should win based on what my run differential is. That has nothing to do with sequencing of events. So if you look at that, the New York Yankees were plus 147, best in the American League. This makes sense. And the Dodgers, plus 156, best in the National League. Only 9 total runs different. So the Pythagorean theory says the Dodgers should have won 96 games. And they won 96 games. The Yankees should have won 96 games. They only won 94. So they were a little unlucky there. So then when I looked at base runs, sequencing of events, changes things a little bit more in a sense that the Yankees were plus 3, meaning that they won 3 games that they shouldn't have. So theoretically, the Yankees should have only won 91 games. And if you really look at it closer, the Baltimore Orioles are minus 1. So they were in the opposite. So they should have won 1 more game than they lost. And that would have gave them 92 wins, which would have won them the division. So in a lot of ways, when you look at that stuff, sometimes it matters, and it matters in standings and so forth. But then I looked at the Dodgers. The Dodgers won 98 games on base runs. They won 98 games. 0 base run variance. Sequencing of events didn't affect them. So now you look at it and you go, 98 wins, 91 wins. Well, that's a bigger difference. You have 602 winning percentage at 98 wins, and you only have a 559 at 91 wins. So when you then take that and break it down a little bit farther, any team that has a 603 winning percentage against a 564 winning percentage, the algorithm spits it out and says when those two teams play, the team that's 603 is going to win 54% of the time, 54.01% of the time. And 54.01% of the time is minus 117. So not looking at any pictures, not looking at lineups, not looking at anything, not doing anything to offset any of that stuff. The series price should be Dodgers minus 117, really, just based off of standings. So that's a basis to start with. So Dodgers minus 117, slight advantage, right? So then I looked at these are this is super tight, guys. I mean, super tight. I mean, a home field advantage is worth 15, 20 cents, and we're talking 117. So we're getting there. So then I started looking at a couple other things to see just how tight things really are. And the first thing was the Dodgers scored more runs than the Yankees, but the Yankees allowed fewer runs. So that run differential was 9, and they got there a little differently. So the Yankees had a little less offense, but way better pitching. Dodgers, better offense, less pitching. Keep that in mind, because that's a theme. That's a theme of this series. Yankees better pitching, Dodgers better hitting. What wins in the playoffs? Pitching or hitting? We're about to find out in this series, in this year, but in the past, what wins is pitching, not hitting. Good pitching shuts down good hitting almost every time. So anyway, as we move that along, we're going to get into some of that other stuff as we move forward. So then I looked at, okay, how did they win their games? Well, the Dodgers were super at home. Only the Phillies were better at winning home games than the Dodgers are. So maybe they got a pretty good edge at home. Well, the Yankees counteract that as they won more games than any team on the road in baseball. And nobody else won more games than the Yankees did away from home. So whatever edge that the Dodgers had is now counteracted by that. Like the Dodgers have an edge in offense, counteracted by the Yankees in pitching, right? So now I'm starting to look at this and go, holy crap, we're getting to a point where do you find some of these edges, right? I told you about the run differential, and we talked about some of that stuff. We talked about base runs. So there's a couple of things that did stand out that show as advantages to the Dodgers. The first one is base running. The Dodgers in base runs, shouldn't say base runs. That's not where I want it to be. It's down here. Here we go. So let's backtrack a minute until we'll get to base running in a second. I wanted to give you more comparison because it makes more sense to do it that way than the way I'm going. So the history shows that when the Dodgers and the Yankees play in a series like this in the playoffs, the Yankees are 8-3. So Yankees historically have an edge over the Dodgers. But what is super significant here is Jay Kuda put out a great tweet on Twitter, and it shows a breakdown head-to-head of the Dodgers and the Yankees for the last 60 games. So in the last 60 games, the Yankees have won 30 games, and the Dodgers have won 30 games. So there's no, all right, so theoretically, we always talk about this, talk about it all season, talk about it preseason. Baseball is about streaks. Some teams are going to go out and win 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, and then the other team's going to win 3, 4, 5 in a row. So this series for 60 games looks like this. So for the last 2 games, just the last 2 games they played, it's 1-1. For the last 4 games, it's 2-2. For the last 6 games, it's 3-3. For the last 8 games, it's 4-4. For the last 10 games, it's 10-10. For the last 12 games, it's 6-6. Kind of catching the theory here. For the last 14 games, 7-7. For the last 16 games, 8-8. For the last 18 games, 9-9. Holy crap. For the last 20 games, it's 10-10. For the last 30 games, it's 15-15. For the last 50 games, it's 25-25. And the last 60 games, it's 30-30. And in the regular season, when they played each other, it's 11-11. Holy crap. It's unbelievable at how this is so tight. And I mean like tight. There's hardly any edges here. There in whatever edges that there are, I'm going to talk about base running as an edge, right? I mean, it can be. So we're going to get there. So talk about some of the guys playing in this series. You know, we talked about Mookie Betts. We talked about some of these players. You know, you're going to have Aaron Judge. He's the best player in baseball. Then you have Shohei Ohtani. And then you have Juan Soto. And then kind of just a little bit next tier down from those guys, the elite, super elites, right? That's where you find Mookie Betts, and that's where you find Freddie Freeman. Those guys kind of fall into that spot. And to be honest, you know, Freddie Freeman's 29th. Jazz Chisholm fits a 33rd, and in terms of productivity, numbers, and WAR, that's where he's at. He's going to have to do something, right? But that's where he's at. And then the next tier down from that, you're looking at Teoscar Hernandez, Anthony Volpe, those guys. So let's compare this a little differently. So if we look at team totals, right, for these two teams. So the Dodgers, they had 33.7 WAR for the season. It's a pretty good number, 33.7 WAR. The New York Yankees, 33.7 WAR. Are you kidding? Both of these teams are producing the same stuff. So the Dodgers had an offensive WAR of 148 and the Yankees 102. That's offensive WAR 102. So there's a gap there. So how did the defense is what gave the gap to the Yankees that filled it up. The defense for the Yankees, 15.8 positive WAR, and for the Dodgers, minus 29.5. That defense can show up and can be a factor in a series. And that defense is probably enough to negate the base running problems that they have. So then you have the Dodgers hit 233 home runs this year. Third in baseball. It's pretty good. The Yankees hit 237, 4 different, and were the best in baseball in home runs. Like, they're 4 different. It's unbelievable. So there's 3 teams in Major League Baseball. 3. That's it. That scored 800 or more runs. 3 of them. The Dodgers scored 842. The Yankees scored 815, and the Diamondbacks were in the 800. So, again, there's 162 games, and there's a difference of 30 runs. That's not much. The Dodgers led Major League Baseball with weighted runs created plus of 118. That means they're 18% better than an average team. Best in baseball. The Yankees, 117. I mean, come on. There's no difference there. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe one of these teams just strikes out all the time and the other team, doesn't. So the Dodgers strikeout percentage is 21.4%. The Yankees, 21.2%. I mean, come on, man. Everything you look at, every single thing you look at. Now, the New York Yankees were the best team in baseball at drawing walks, and it was 10.8%. But the Dodgers were third in baseball drawing walks. It's a little lower number, but still 9.6%. You're at first and third. There's not much difference there, right? So I thought, everywhere you look, especially on offense, there's not much that separates these two teams. Really, there's not. And that doesn't include, though, what's happening in the playoffs, and we'll get to that in a minute. So I put a couple of thought and areas: base stealing and base running. The Dodgers blow them away, just blow them away. So the Dodgers base running, which is it's a BSR number. It's base runs above average, right? So how many runs do you get because you run the bases well, better than an average team? And StatCast does it. Fangraphs does a great job and puts this together. So BSR, base running above average, for the Dodgers was 10.7. So that's 10.7 runs better than an average team. And the Yankees were minus 16.9. Holy shit, minus 16.9. They were the worst base running team in baseball. Absolute worst. And shit, you saw it in the playoffs. How many times did they get themselves thrown out in running bases? John Sterling had a call that said that the Yankees are running the bases like they're drunk. And my God, they looked like it. So I do think that's an advantage. The Dodgers had 136 stolen bases, ranked 10th, and the Yankees only had 88, ranked 24th. So, there are things there that's an advantage. But in an overall picture, I can't get over that the Yankees defense is so much better than the Dodgers defense that doesn't offset it to a degree. Because pitching and defense is going to be important in a series. Yes, base running is important, but I don't in a negative way more so than in a positive way, if that makes sense. If the Yankees do the stupid shit that they did with Cleveland, they might not win any of these games because you need those runners. You need to score runs. So here's where so we do all this conversation about how these two teams are exactly the same to get to a point where they're not. And it's not questioned. It's not close. And it does make a huge difference in this World Series. The World Series usually has a combination of the best pitchers in baseball. It just does. You usually have the best pitcher for the best team in the league pitching in the World Series is usually what happens. And that's because that guy gets you there, right? He's won, a 20-game winner or whatever. Doesn't give up any runs and can't beat him. And he goes out and pitches in the World Series against another guy who's really good for the other team. These teams don't have that. These teams don't have the best pitchers in baseball. So we need to quantify what pitchers they do have, because balls in play from an offense, and if you can have an edge there because the pitchers that you're going to face are worse and you can hit and you can exploit that, you're going to be in pretty good shape against the team that, yeah, you got a great offense, but I got enough pitching that I can hold you at bay, right? So we're getting ready to get into that side of this discussion. So the best pitcher really for either team for the whole season now. And then I graded this out, not only whole season, but then I started saying, okay, well, nobody gives a shit about the whole season. What we really care about is what have these guys been doing? What are they like now? Like, what are they doing in the second half of the season? How good are they, right? What's that kind of stuff? I mean, who gives a shit if back in April they were really good. So the best pitcher for the season was Tyler Glasnow. He was the best pitcher. He was a 3.86 WAR, ranked 16th of all of baseball. He would be a very welcome sight for the Dodgers right now. He would be, but he's not there. So just not. So then you have Yamamoto, who is a 2.8 WAR. He's 41st in baseball. But the Yankees have a problem too. Nestor Cortez, 2.9 WAR, not much different. Well, a little bit different than Glasnow, but he ranked 38th in baseball, better than Yamamoto does. Jack Flaherty, who pitches for the Dodgers, he had a 3.2 WAR for the whole season. Luis Heel for the Yankees, 2.2 WAR. Garrett, so here's where the edges go, right? So you have Flaherty and Yamamoto for the Dodgers. And we're going to talk about their numbers in a minute, but you have those two guys. And then you have Walker Buehler. If Walker Buehler was the Walker Buehler pre-injury, I'd say you're in good shape because he's an ace. He's not that. Walker Buehler gets smashed and walks a lot of guys. Not only does he smash, he puts guys on base. So both Flaherty and Yamamoto are giving up home runs. And we just talked about it. The Yankees hit more home runs than anybody. So we got issues on the Dodgers starting staff. And then they don't have another guy. They're going to have to go a bullpen game in one of these games anyway, at least one. And they might find themselves in bullpen games a lot. I'm going to say this a little later on in a section here in a minute, but the Dodgers bullpen in the second half pitched more innings than any other team in baseball. They more innings the Dodgers bullpen pitched than any other team in baseball. Number one, innings pitched. That's not necessarily good. I mean, obviously you want to rely on your bullpen to help you win games, but you don't want to rely on your bullpen to be the guys that pitch. And I'm going to tell you this flat out. The Cleveland Guardians are the best bullpen. They have four guys that are, under 2 earned run averages, and I don't use earned average, but for practical purposes, under 2, and big strikeout guys, and just quality relievers, right? 4 of them. Well, who did the Yankees beat? They beat that bullpen, and they beat those guys. So if the Yankees can score on that bullpen, they're going to face the Dodgers bullpen, who is average at best. They don't have a closer, so they're going to be average at best. Sure, they're going to get outs. They're going to have to get outs because the starters, oh crap. So now you can start seeing a variance here because the Yankees don't have that problem. The Yankees are going to throw Garrett Cole, and then the Yankees are going to throw Rodon, and then they're going to throw Clark Schmidt, and then they're going to throw Luis Heel. All of those guys can give them at least 5 innings, if not 6, if not 7, if they're really on. I mean, Jesus, Rodon's been holy crap, Rodon's been the best pitcher in the playoffs. So that means that when you have a starting pitcher that's going to go 5 innings, 6 innings, you don't have to bring in 8 relievers to finish this game. You bring in 3 or however many you're going to do, but they're going to be your high leverage guys. They're going to be your A-plus bullpen guys. The Dodgers are going to use all of them, every one they got, because they're going to have to. They don't have a choice. They don't have starting pitchers that can go that length. I mean, you watched Flaherty pitch his last start, right? Flaherty, I like Flaherty, but got a big concern with him. He's had back problems, and the Yankees were trying to trade for him at the trade deadline, canceled the deal. canceled the deal because they didn't like what they saw in his medicals, and hasn't really had a setback with the Dodgers in terms of missing time. But if you're going to tell me that the guy's velocity drops 3-4 miles an hour, and then he's going to be the ace and he's going to go out there and pitch like he always does, that's your full shit. It doesn't work like that. A velocity drop of 2 or 3 miles an hour in the regular season is going to happen from time to time. This guy's arms fall off. I look for that, and I want to bet against those guys. So guess what I want to do? I want to bet against Jack Flaherty because that's what happened. Now, it doesn't mean he can't rebound. He can throw hard. He can do all this stuff. Sure, he can come back. But it's more unlikely, and it's probably more related to his back than it is to his arm fell off. So I just look at this and say, that's not a good spot for the Dodgers to have Jack Flaherty be. I mean, it is what it is. The Mets scored 8 runs off of him. So, yeah, he was good previous, but he was also bad. I mean, the Padres scored 5 runs off him or whatever it was. So his and I got it right here. So, I mean, I can look this, tell you. I'm pretty sure let me go here. That's not what I want. I want pictures. So his playoffs earned run average for where is he? Dun, dun, dun. I think it's 7 or something like that. Jack Flaherty. His earned run averages for all the playoffs is 704. His xFIP number, the number I use, is 5.86, much better than the 7 number. But there's been 28 starters, and the playoffs, in the postseason. He's thrown 3 times. He's thrown 15 innings. 5.86. He ranks 28th. Dead last. 28th out of 28. Okay. I don't like that. I mean, that's just not a good spot, right? So then get back to what we were talking about. So then you can back that up with a guy like Yamamoto. Well, we've seen Yamamoto get crushed, and we've seen him pitch halfway decent. What we haven't seen him do is pitch 7-8 innings. He doesn't pitch long. He might pitch 5 innings, and maybe he does halfway decent. But where the Yankees have trouble is when they face a guy like Skubal. You put a guy like Skubal out there, he mixes up his pitches well. Everybody has trouble, but he throws hard and he mixes pitches well. The Yankees, they guess a lot, and a lot of times, they're not going to throw many fastballs by them. But if you mix up your pitches well, you're going to be able to get outs. Yamamoto misses a lot, and Yamamoto puts balls in spots that can get hit, and they don't just get hit; they get hit for home runs. So Yamamoto's not really. I don't see. Let's say it this way: I don't see a Dodger pitcher that the Yankees are going to be afraid of. Not one. I mean, even when you get the bullpen, their best pitcher in the bullpen is Michael Kopech, and shit, they've seen him 8 million times pitch for the White Sox. So they know who these guys are. So I don't think that that's going to be a problem. Now, flip it over, right? So Garrett Cole. Now, Garrett Cole hasn't been Cy Young Garrett Cole. He just hasn't. But what I will say, he has pitched how many games? Garrett Cole has pitched where is he? I thought I put it in here. Maybe not. I can look it up real fast. Not that I need to, but Garrett Cole has pitched in the neighborhood of about 30, somewhere in that neighborhood, close to that many playoff games. He's been in the World Series. He's a Cy Young Award winner. He's at one time the best pitcher in baseball. His experience level is extremely high compared to Jack Flaherty. And that's who the matchup is going to be in game one. So Garrett Cole has also, in the last, say, 30 days coming into the break here, coming into the season, he had a 1.2 WAR. Jack Flaherty had a 0.4, I think is what the number was. 3 times better coming in. So, yes, he missed half the season. Yes, his arm was a problem. Yes, all these things about Garrett Cole. And yes, he's not the dominant Astros Garrett Cole. But Garrett Cole is better than Jack Flaherty. He just is. He's Jack Flaherty, for example, if I pull these numbers up, I thought I had them on this sheet, but maybe not. I can get them. Here we go. This is sort of what I'm looking for. Garrett Cole, 20 games started. I'm sorry. He has 20 game starts. He's 11-6. His earned run average is 2.98. Not that I use that, but 2.98 for playoffs, and that's the playoffs. And Jack Flaherty is 2-5 in 7 starts. Earned run average for him in the entire playoffs that he's ever pitched, 4.91. 4.91. And I don't think he's ever pitched in a World Series game. So, unless he pitched one, I don't think he did. So, you're looking at a big experience level gap in game one. So, I get why the line is where it is in game one. I think the line was like 125, anywhere from 125, something like that. I'm on the Yankees. I'm going to be on the Yankees in the series, and I'm on the Yankees in game one. Now game two is a whole different story. But game one, I like the matchup. I like Cole better than I like Flaherty. The Dodger bullpen is like 17th in terms of where they rank and what they look like. The Yankees bullpen, they're like 14th. So, I mean, there's not much difference, separation between the two, and they kind of function the same way. The Yankees are using Weaver as a closer. Dodgers are using, the guy we got from the White Sox. So it's one of these spots where they kind of mix and match and do all the stuff to get these outs and get through these things. You're going to need you're going to need managers to be good because decisions can affect these things too. And if you're afraid of one of the managers, a lot of people don't like Dave Roberts. A lot of people don't like Aaron Boone. And I listened to Cashman talk the other day, and he said the best thing that Aaron Boone does is he doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, handles all the pressure, and does all the things that he needs to do to help his team win. Well, that's all well and good, but I want an A.J. Hinch back there. I want a guy that pulls the right buttons and does the right things and pushes the right things. And, people don't like what Dave Roberts does either. They don't like all the changes he makes. They don't think he handles the bullpen well. Doesn't make great lineups and all that stuff. That's what I always say about Boone, too. Doesn't make good lineups. Well, these lineups, they're not going to change much. You're going to be putting in those guys that you want them to hit, and then we'll see what happens. So, anyway, I think the Dodgers and the Yankees in game one, I think Garrett Cole, his experience, and I think he's pitching better. Not really striking a whole bunch of guys out, I think that you look at that and you go, yeah, that's kind of what I think. And then, Kenny White sends me some numbers and stuff, and he's got matchups, and the way he matched them up, he has Dodgers minus 137 in game one. I get that. So if it was 117, the way I told you earlier, with just two teams, no pitchers, and then you add the home field on top of that, it's worth 15, 20 cents. Well, now you're at 137. You're at 130. What the current number on these games, I got to go pull it up here real quick. But the current number on these games, baseball, there we go, World Series. Let's see. You're at Circus 123, Bookmakers 122. It opened at 130. Totals 8.5. So I think you're going to see a variance in the totals from game to game to game to game. 8.5 is probably a normal number for baseball these days. But I think you're going to see a 9. I think you might even see a higher than a 9 in this series, because the pitchers are just like, that's just the way I think it's going to go. So I don't know that there's going to be a big run on people wanting to bet Dodgers. I just don't. So I already bet it, so I think I got him plus 113 was the number that I got. The series price right now, circa 129 for the Dodgers, 118 for the Yankees. Bookmaker is 140 and 120. So here's my thought on that bet for the series bet. My thought is, I looked at this and I didn't play it out, but so if you got Rodon and then Yamamoto, right, in the next game, Rodon's been the best pitcher in the playoffs. He's been the best pitcher in the playoffs. If I were to go and tell you, where's the pitching? Here we go. So we just said there were 28 starters in Major League Baseball in the playoffs, right? And this is all ranked by XFIP at this point. But you look at that. Jack Flaherty was 28th, and we said that. Rodon is 1.99 XFIP. Of the 28 pitchers, he's number one. This is the best pitcher in the playoffs. His strikeouts per 9 innings is 13.81. Balls in play, edge to the Yankees in that game, right? His walks, 0.63 walks in 9 innings. So what's kind of cool is if I go and flip this a different way, and I go, there it is. I'm looking for, that's not what I want. Yeah. So if I go and say, what's his strikeout percentage to walk percentage difference for Rodon? He is 37.3% of the batters he faces, he strikes out. He's walking 1.7 of them. The difference in that is 35.6%. And that's over 3 games. It's not over just one start. That's 3 games. And that's a big number. It's the best number in the playoffs. So Yamamoto, though, I think is going to match up here, and I don't know what you're going to get from Rodon, because I don't know how he's going to keep going, right? If he can keep his emotions in check, I think he's going to be halfway decent here. But if the Yankees win game 1, then the series price is not going to be the way it is today. I mean, they're going to be the favorite, right? If they lose game 1, then you might be able to get the Yankees at a better price. But then Rodon's going to have to be the key, the catalyst, right? So I think the Yankees are going to win game 1. I said it before, the Yankees won the most games on the road that there is. This spotlight is not too big for those guys. I mean, Jesus, watch what Soto did. Watch what Judge does. And I get it. Judge hasn't been, he hasn't done anything monstrously crazy. But we'll see how this pitching matches up. Judge will hit these pitchers. Judge will hit them. They don't have the velocity to just mow him down. He'll hit him. So I think I think that this just suits well for what the Yankees are going to do. Now, as this series kind of progresses, right? If I get back to where your matchups are, then you got Rodon and Flaherty, and then you go back to New York, and in New York, you're going to have Walker Buehler pitch against Clark Schmidt. Well, Clark Schmidt's pretty good, and he's pretty good at home, and Walker Buehler gets hit, and that's Yankee Stadium. So Kenny White's got 128 Yankees in that matchup. And then he's got a listed bullpen game, and it's not going to be that way. Louis Seal's going to pitch. Now, Louis Seal may not pitch very long, but Louis Seal's going to pitch. And if Louis Seal is on, he's better than all the Yankee pitchers. And he's got a minus 135 for the Yankees. And then he's got Cole again at minus 128 at home. So the Yankees are going to be favored in all three games at home. Dodgers are going to be favored in the first two, but it's sort of a flip of a coin for some of these games. So then the next two games will be in Dodger Stadium again, and then you have Rodon again, and then you have Clark Schmidt and Walker Buehler again, right? So the matchups for the pitchers, I think, are going to be Yankees favored. I can't see the Dodgers pitching wise. Now I can see them getting through games. I can see them. Look, the Dodgers have to win games by scoring 10 runs. And can they score 10 runs on the Yankees? Absolutely. But the difference in some of these games where the Mets and maybe even the Padres and these guys, they don't have what the Yankees have. The Yankees can go score 10 runs right back. So that's why I say I think you're going to see a lot of big numbers and a lot of scoring. I think you're going to see a lot of runs in this series. I looked at a progression system that I use, projection system, ZiPS. And ZiPS has the probabilities this way. In game one, Garrett Cole and Flaherty, Yankees probability 50.5%, Dodgers 49.5%. Holy shit. Are you kidding me? 1% difference and it's at 50? That's like, oh my gosh. And then the next game has Rodon against Yamamoto, and they got Yamamoto 56%. And I'm not so sure I don't disagree with that because based on the season, Rodon's a 500 pitcher, but so is Yamamoto. But we'll see how all that sort of plays out, right? And then they have Louis Seal against Walker Buehler at Yankee Stadium. Louis Seal, 52%, 52.8. Clark Schmidt against the bullpen game, 56%. Then Garrett Cole, 54% against Flaherty. And then you flip it back over, and then you got Rodon again, and you got Louis Seal against Walker Buehler in Dodger Stadium, and Dodgers 51.2%. So, again, so much can hinge on this first game if the Yankees win, because if the Yankees win, they're going to be favored in their home games. They can not go back to Dodger Stadium. So we'll see how it kind of fakes out because it's really set up that way. So my thoughts are that you want to if there's no real advantages, right, except for the Yankees pitching, and the Yankees are the underdogs. So why? Just because there's one extra home game at the Dodgers, and they're the underdogs because of that, maybe. And the Dodgers, according to ZiPS, shouldn't even be favored. Of course, it's basically a flip of a coin, but percentage-wise, they would be underdogs. So I think it should go this way. I don't think there's any reason to bet a favorite that's not really a favorite. So I don't want to bet Dodgers because I can see a path for the Yankees to win. I can see a path for the Dodgers to win too. But money-wise, Dodgers are not like this big favorite. Of course, they could certainly win. But I like the Yankees because I think the Yankees can hit these pitchers, and I think the Yankees have a better pitching scenario than the Dodgers do. And if we get really down to it, and you really want to look at a couple other things. So the Dodgers threw the most innings of any team in the bullpen, and this is kind of where I wanted to go in the second half of the season. 271 innings. They're an average group. They're not a big strikeout group. 16th in strikeouts. Yankees, 9th in strikeouts. They do a little better in strikeouts. They're an average group too. But during the postseason, big differences here. The New York Yankee bullpen has a 2.56 earned run average and a 3.76 FIP in the bullpen. And the Dodgers, 3.16 earned run average, so 60 points higher, and a 4.10 FIP number, which is 40 points higher. The Dodgers bullpen has allowed 20 runs, so hear me. They've pitched 57 innings in the playoffs, the postseason, the Dodgers bullpen, giving up 57 hits, 20 runs allowed. So that's 1 hit per inning. You kind of want it to be just under that. So it's not a terrible number, but it's not a good number. Yankees, they've pitched 38.2 innings. See, dramatically different numbers. 38.2 innings, only allowed 29 hits. That's what you're looking for. And only allowed 12 runs. That is what you want. So not only do I think that the Yankees have a better starting rotation going into this, I think they have a better bullpen. And I think that offensively they're the same teams. And I can get the Yankees as underdogs in the series. I'm going to take them. I advise anybody to take them. Take the Yankees to win the World Series. I also think that you should play the Yankees in Game 1. Now, I can't go into Game 2. I can't go into Game 3. I can't go into Game 4 individually and all that stuff until we get there. Now, tomorrow, the series starts. And I might do a little more breakdown in terms of, props and all that stuff. Because one of the things that I can get into here for one quick second, let me get to player props for a minute. One of the things I want to make sure of is I say one thing. I got to pull up numbers before I can say it. Why am I not seeing what I'm looking for? That's what I'm looking for. So if I go to DraftKings and I go into the World Series and we go to I'm looking for series props like the World Series. I get that. It's not what I want. Awards. All right. So World Series MVP, right? So here's what I'm going to say. Who would you think is at the top? The stars among stars, right? So Shohei Ohtani's plus 200. Aaron Judge plus 400. Juan Soto plus 500. Those are your guys. And then you have Stanton at plus 800, Betts 900, Muncy 1,000. I know what's going to happen. People are going to go, well, I don't want to play that. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Because I want the big money, right? I want to go bet, Carlos Rodon plus 6,000. That's what they want to do. You want to win your bet? So here's how I'm going to preface this. I'm going to preface this by saying this is a big stage, the biggest stage of Major League Baseball in years. A huge, huge World Series between these two teams. And these are the guys that if you put a spotlight on them, they're going to be the guys that shine the most. Who's going to win an MVP? It's going to be one of those guys. It's not going to be the little guys that you're looking for that are down at plus 6. It's not going to be those guys. It's going to be the guys that are up there. It's going to be the Ohtanis, the Judges, the Stantons, the Sotos, the Betts, Those guys are all less than 1,000. So be careful what you do. Now, it depends on how much you bet and what you're doing, right? If you bet $1,000 on these games, you better hit one of them. So don't go out there on $1,000 and say, Michael Kopech, you're going to be my MVP at plus 15,000. Don't do that, right? Could he be? Sure, any of these guys can be. I mean, there's going to be 7 games possibly, and in those 7 games, listen. So logically think through this, right? There's 7 game series. It's not going to be a pitcher. The only way it'll be a pitcher is if, say, Garrett Cole or Carlos Rodon goes out there and just throws 7-8 innings in every game he pitches and gets 10 to 12 strikeouts in each one. Is that really likely? No. Can it happen? Sure. Will it happen? Probably not. So it's certainly not going to happen on the Dodger side. So pitchers, throw them out. Get rid of your pitchers. Don't bet on any starting pitchers. And for that matter, don't bet on any relief pitchers either. Not unless they pitch every single game. And they won't let them do that. I guarantee you that. Like the Michael Kopech thing. Don't bet Michael Kopech. So now you're down to position players. So, one of the things that you can look at is how the guys do against certain teams and hitters and all that stuff. All I can tell you is, Aaron Judge, he's hit like 9 home runs against the Dodgers in the few games that he's played them. 9, something like that. Mookie Betts has played against the Yankees 8 million times because he was a Red Sox. Look, these teams are balanced and all of that. I can't tell you which guy. What I can tell you is it's going to be one of those guys. It's likely not going to be a guy like Jazz Chisholm. Could it be? Sure. He's one of the higher ranked guys in all of baseball, 33rd, right? We said. I don't believe it's going to be a guy like Anthony Rizzo. I don't think it's going to be a guy like Gavin Lux. Could it be? Sure. But I don't think so. It's going to be the guys that stir the drink, right? And when you watch the Cleveland series, what do they talk about with the Yankees? They talk about playoff Stanton and regular season Stanton. There is no better hitter. So if I pull this up, let me pull this up and make sure I say this the right way. That's the wrong thing. Here we go. There should be it. Batting. I don't need team. I need players. So if I pull this up, all postseason, the best players hitting-wise in Major League Baseball, the number 1 player, right? We said the best number 1 pitcher belonged to the Yankees, Carlos Rodon, in the playoffs so far. The best batter in the playoffs, including all the teams that are eliminated, but in the playoffs, because Mark Ventos was good. Mark Ventos had a weighted runs created plus of 178, 78% better than an average player. Hit 5 home runs, Mark Ventos. The number 1 player in the postseason so far is Giancarlo Stanton. Weighted runs created plus 220, 120% better than average player. So the Yankees have the best hitter and the best pitcher. I don't know what to tell you. That's what the numbers tell you, right? But, the Dodgers' best guy is Mookie Betts at 184. Well, let's just line these up a little bit. And get him to a point where you match them up quite right. Let's do this. World Series. Let's go there. No data yet. So let's go to League Championship Series so that we get fewer teams. And I want fewer guys. So if you just look at the League Championship Series, Juan Soto, 271. Holy shit. I mean, Juan Soto, Stanton, they're the best guys. Dodgers have Max Muncy and Ohtani right there. So as I'm looking at all of this stuff and breaking all of these stuff into how is this going to play out, I just keep coming back to the Dodgers don't have enough guys to get these guys out. And the Yankees match up. Offensively, they match up. When Stanton started hitting, they match up. The other issue becomes is what's the other guy? Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres started getting on base. Holy shit. I just think the way that works is Yankees have more pitching, deeper pitching, can go longer in games, can utilize the bullpen more effectively. The Dodgers are going to have to score softball type wins. They're going to have to win 10-9, 10-8. And somehow get through these games and somehow not deplete their bullpen to the point where they don't have anybody, because they're going to use them. They're going to use them a lot. So anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of my show for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I didn't really get any World Series questions. I'll give you some time. We have 90 people on the show tonight. If you really have a question, and just type it in. I'd love to answer any questions that you have. If you have any, we can hang out for a few more minutes, do questions and answers at this point, and see if there is any, and then we can kind of wrap it up and say, hey, look, I'm going to have a ball watching this. I mean, I think it's, I don't want to say disappointing because it's not really the right word, but when you get a World Series that is the Texas Rangers against the Arizona Diamondbacks, you sit there and you go, I'm not disappointed, because you're happy for those teams and you're happy for those players, and there's some good quality in there, or they wouldn't be in the World Series. But the difference isn't the same. Meaning that you're not disappointed, but to a certain degree, you're cheated out of an event. The Super Bowl is an event. The World Series needs to be that stage of an event. And I get it. It's fun to have some of these teams go in there. But it's not anything like what this World Series is. This is two teams matched up almost identically. The biggest names, the most wins, the brightest of stars. Let's have a great World Series, guys, and that's how I see it. That's how I break it down. I don't know if there's anybody that disagrees, doesn't agree. There's no questions, so I'm going to wrap it up and go eat some dinner. So anyway, guys, thanks a lot. Matt, thanks for the comment. I hope it's a great World Series. I hope it's competitive. I hope there's a lot of exciting moments, like the Cleveland Yankee series was exciting with great big moments in it. I'm hoping that we get that here. I hope we have a lot of fun and a lot of excitement, and I hope people flock to baseball because of it. So anyway, have a great night, guys, and I will see you the next time I come on. I'm not sure when that'll be, but maybe I'll come on and start talking some football. Thanks, Matt. Have a great night.